Buongiorno, buon popolo. This weekend falls in Petertide, the 8 days following the 29th of June, the feast of Peter and Paul. Peter was the rock upon which Christ built his church and to whom he gave the keys of heaven. He was the apostle who walked with Jesus from Galilee to Golgotha and into the garden of the resurrection and beyond. Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, the scourge of the early church, who became its greatest advocate, whose missionary journeys around the known world, as well as his preaching and writing, made him the ambassador of the faith we share. Petertide is therefore one of the traditional times for ordination, and Bishop Helen Ann will ordain 3 deacons and 7 priests in Newcastle Cathedral this weekend. They are listed in our paper and electronic bulletins on the prayer page, so please pray for them and for the parishes in which they are working. This weekend, we will also mark a very special anniversary as Richard Bryant celebrates his 50th year of ordination to the priesthood. I am delighted that Richard will preside at the Eucharist in church on Sunday at 10 a.m, assisted by Gloria, and we're looking forward to welcoming the Very Reverend Jeff Miller as our preacher. Jeff was Archdeacon of Northumberland and most recently Dean of Newcastle, a distinguished and well-loved figure in the diocese who will grace our celebration. At her first diocesan synod last month, Bishop Helen Ann spoke of her vision for the diocese and has put forward a new diocesan strapline. For many years, we have worked with generous, open and engaged. And in some ways, the new strapline is an updated version of the same sentiments: seeking, sharing and sending. In a recent letter to the clergy of the diocese, Bishop Helen Ann wrote this: "These are outward-facing values that were discerned during the many weeks and months of preparation for the discernment to be your new bishop, and which have been further reflected on during many conversations and visits that I have undertaken since." In the diocesan logo, the 3 words each have an emoji, and she says, why the emojis? I believe that as a diocese, we are being called by God to turn outwards in mission and grow younger and more diverse. We are to be youthful in scope, mindful of the realities of our diverse contexts and thinking of the audiences beyond the ones we see now. We are seeking through being open to God's transforming love, sharing through being generous with God's transforming gifts, and we are sending through being engaged in God's transforming work in the world. Bishop Helen Ann also expressed her gratitude for the work going into deanery development, and which I have already reported on in a previous bulletin in relation to Newcastle East Deanery. She also reminded us in her letter of the text that you can find in St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verses 5 to 8. So we who are many are one body in Christ, and individually we are members one of another. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us: prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the exhorter in exhortation, the giver in generosity, the leader in diligence, the compassionate in cheerfulness. I don't know about you, but I recognise those gifts in someone like Richard. So when we come to worship with him on Sunday, we will celebrate that in our worship. But we will also share it in our summer fair, which is on Saturday from 12 till 2 p.m. Please make a point of joining in with that, for it is one of the ways in which we make known our sense of community and our ministry to the wider world. We are so grateful for the efforts of those who've been preparing behind the scenes. So please join us on the day.